Welcome to the Spring Equinox Inspiration Summit. Today, as a guest, we have Tara Divina. Tara is a heart healing medicine musician who creates songs to bring our deepest prayers into reality. She draws on her experience as a vice president at the Warner Music Group to offer business coaching for conscious musicians and visionary artists so they can build an organic fan base using authentic self-expression and generate a sustainable income using all of their gifts. She has also tapped into karmic patterns, purpose, and destiny through the lens of Vedic astrology and brings her gifts of seeing the unseen together with her practical know-how to empower creatives to thrive. With no further ado, Tara Divina, I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so lovely to be here.
So tell me about how you help creative artists to bring their genius out into the world.
Yeah, well, it's just one of my favorite things to talk about and one of my absolute favorite things to do, because I feel like beauty is really one of the most important things in our lives. And it's often one of the things that we prioritize the least in some ways, that like on some levels, beauty is put at the forefront of our culture, right? Like in terms of external beauty, how we look, how we're presenting ourselves to the world. But in terms of creating beauty to share and healing beauty and art, it's always kind of viewed as that thing we do when we can afford it, that thing we do if we have enough time, that thing we'll do if we had 2 weeks in a cabin to really drop in and, make space for it, versus that thing that we make a priority. And one of the very fundamental things that I help people do is to even just identify how much joy and fulfillment art brings into their lives so that they can even just give themselves permission to make it even a little bit of a priority. And for those that are already making it a priority, for those who are fostering a career as a musician or an artist and struggling to find ways to make income, we focus on how do we integrate all the different gifts that are there? How do we take everything that brings us joy and fulfillment and excitement and wrap it up into packaging to enable us to make more money? And that's really, those are the two different streams of approaches that I take with artists to support them.
So since I understand a lot of artists struggle with the money thing, is that one of your geniuses is helping them to make money so that they can actually afford to come to you for your amazing wisdom?
Well, I work with a variety of people, right? So some of the artists I work with already have full-time jobs doing something else. It could range between being a doctor or a lawyer, something that maybe isn't super related to their art, right? Or they might have something that's a little more integrated, like a spiritual teacher or a meditation teacher or a singing teacher or something like this, a lot of teachers. And so basically I work with them either to begin the process of generating income as an artist, sustainable long-term income, so that they can make that transition from the unrelated career to the art career. Or I work with them to increase the amount of business they're getting, or think of other offerings that they can do that relate to their art career, right? So that way they can have a variety of different income streams that really bring them joy and fulfillment and that actually do relate to their creativity.
All right. So in all the interviews, I really like to get down to your deep nuggets of wisdom. And I also would love for you to share something that the audience could take away, a practice they could or incorporate into their lives, or maybe you could do like a hypothetical, like maybe people right now are, I think that a lot of people right now are struggling to find their purpose, and maybe they have a hobby or hobby or a career that they just haven't figured out how to bring their passion into their life, into their like making money life. So maybe you could speak a little bit more to that and then lead into a practice that you could share with us.
Absolutely. So, if you're someone who, there's some whispers in your heart to pursue something creative and you want to be seen, you want people to witness your creative creations, but you're either feeling too shy or you're not sure where to focus, etc. The key is to really tap into the joy and the pleasure of creating and to share share your process, right? It's an act of vulnerability to share our creative process. I actually had there was a point where I had a partner who was really self-expressed, and he is someone who did not have any experience as a musician, did not have any experience as a rapper, did not have any experience as a dancer. And yet he would put out these videos of him rapping or dancing or singing. And they were literally the most shameless videos I've ever seen. Like, he just did not care. He would dance around in his underwear on screen and like do these things. And I would say, don't you want to wait until this is more refined or until you're more experienced? Like, how are you doing this? And he said, hey, creativity is about shipping. And the more you let people see you, the more you're giving them permission to be seen. And it stuck with me for so many years after that. There was so much truth to it. It's like we get so caught up in perfection, in are we, is this going to be that worthy of showing other people, et cetera, that we lose out on the joy of being creative and sharing that creativity. And we lose focus on the fact that we are actually gifting other people permission to shine, gifting them permission to share when we do so imperfectly. And of course, the secret is that no artist ever feels like their art is perfect. It doesn't matter if you are painting the Sistine Chapel or the Mona Lisa, or writing the most incredible book. Like, you'll never feel like it's done, and you'll never feel like it's perfect. There's just done enough and perfect enough, and basically getting over that sense of perfectionism and getting into a spirit of generosity and pleasure is the overarching trick to becoming more focused in on creativity. I know that for me, the more often I focus on the joy and the pleasure of it, the more beautiful my creations become. Plus, if I'm not enjoying it, what is the point?
I hear you. Okay, so before you share your exercise with us, think about a client who you really helped shift from point A to point B with whatever they were struggling with. Because I want to get some more practicalities of how you work, or because I have a feeling that whatever scenario you bring up, or maybe you could find someone with something that people might be struggling with right now, and maybe some tools and practices that you used to bring their life to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, one example that just comes up right away is one of my clients who is a spiritual artist. And this client felt like there was a certain way that a spiritual artist needs to present themselves and look. And this way of being was not in their greatest joy, right? Like, it wasn't their truth. And so consequently, they did not want to share anything or play live or be themselves on social media and other outlets. And so they weren't sharing anything. And so it's really hard to build a fan base and to develop yourself as an artist if you're not sharing, right? Like, people need to see you, people need to experience you, they need to have an awareness of what you're up to. And so I gave them permission to just be themselves. Like, what do they actually love to wear? What do they actually love to do? Who do they actually want to be? Like, how do they actually want to present themselves authentically versus what they think other people might be looking for? And that really is the gem, because we think that we want to present ourselves in a particular way to get a certain response or to get people to follow us or to like us. But when they really want to follow us and like us, it's because we're beaming our core essence in a particular way that is absolutely unique to us, unmistakably us. And so once we start doing that, and once this person started expressing themselves in that way, people responded immediately, because it's the real us that they're really craving. And so many of us fall into that trap, not just as musicians, but as coaches and healers and public figures, of trying to play to what people want. And it's absolutely not the fulfilling path.
As a coach myself, I completely get it that we're actually living out who we, like you used the word should, like who we were as children, who are the way our parents thought, the beliefs that they had, we're still letting that run our lives. Most of us have chosen into a career because it wasn't actually what we wanted. That maybe it's like a more like money making, and maybe it's our parents that really were behind the impetus for us to make that choice. For some of us, that was a true, real, solid, heart-based choice, but for other of us, it wasn't. And so it's like separating the voice of others from the voice of yourself, because that's really what I hear you saying, is bringing your true essence, your true voice out into the world. I love this.
100%. And that's actually one of the core things I work on with my clients, is rather than a focus on like, how can I make a song that'll be popular on the radio or whatever it is, right? I focus on who are you and what's your message? What is your core why? What are you actually here to say? What are you actually here to radiate through both your music and your branding and how you speak? And then we get the message consistent based around who they really are, so that they can radiate that and magnetize the people who are meant to hear the message and to resonate with it, which for healing, especially healing art in particular, that's the way to go, because it's not about the radio or mainstream acceptance. It's about magnetizing that core group of people who are going to resonate with your frequency.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are often like, is this me or is this not me? It's hard to decipher. I have my own tools. I don't know if you have any special tools for that, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
If
I
you're
take
so in this identity of who you are right now, that, and we might have little twinges of feelings like this, I'm just quiet and shy, and I feel like something's covering me up from like my right true expression, but we might not know what that looks or feels like. So maybe when we go and start whatever singing in the shower, we're like, I don't know if this is quite me. And so it's kind of like a chicken, like go just out of its hen, like kind of trying to find its way, find its walk. And how do you know when you actually find that walk?
The great question. So I do take people through a very specific process to find their core why and clarify it. But B, you really don't know until you start shipping, right? To refer back to the creativity is about shipping piece, right? You don't know until you try. So you've got to kind of push up against those edges of like, I put that out there and didn't feel right. I put that out there and it felt amazing. I put that out there and I wasn't proud of it. I put that out there and I was proud of it. I used to, back when I used to write music before I hit my stride and found my own voice, I would write it and then I'd be kind of embarrassed by it and not that proud of it. And I remember talking to a published author about this, and he's like, well, maybe you're not that proud of it because you don't actually like it that much. And it was also kind of a light bulb moment. I was like, I don't like it that much, but I'm really glad that I went through the process of creating it so that I could find out and actually see how I felt about it. Now, not to be confused with the fact that sometimes I'll write a song or my clients will create something and we think it sucks. And then we put it out there and people love it. And suddenly we realize it was actually amazing. So sometimes getting that feedback is really helpful. You know, obviously we don't want to rely only on other people's feedback for validation, but it's also, there's a fine line there because it is also useful if we don't see the value in something and other people do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Having being a three-time author, I'm always like, wait, is this, tell me truthfully, is this book good? Because if not, I never want to write another book again, you know? So I'm looking, in some ways, I feel myself looking for that validation to know if I like it. How much I like book writing depends a lot on that. So, okay.
Absolutely. It's both and.
Uh-huh. Okay. So if you will, take us through a special exercise, a
Yeah.
practical takeaway that we could take back home.
Okay. This is probably going to be one of the simplest exercises you hear on this summit. I'm just guessing. It's super basic, but it is going to change your life. So if you're not already doing this, if you're not already creating on a regular basis, or if you think you're creating on a regular basis, I want you to make a commitment to yourself to show up at least 6 days a week for a minimum of 15 minutes and do a creative project that you enjoy. So it could be something totally new, like maybe you're a musician, but you're going to make a bead necklace, right? Like maybe you're a painter, but you're going to write a song. Maybe you're going to do the thing that you're good at. It doesn't matter as long as it's in your highest joy, and just see what happens. And as you cultivate that practice of being in creative pleasure, a whole new world of ideas and inspiration and thoughts and feelings are going to open up to you. And it will also retrain you to prioritize creativity, which again, creativity and pleasure often wind up at the bottom of the pile. And a lot of people talk about prioritizing pleasure, but very few people talk about prioritizing creativity. And I think they go hand in hand. And the amount of joy and fulfillment we get from being in those flow states that we get into when we're in our creative process is just unmatchable by anything else. So I would say give yourself that gift. And if you are an artist who already creates regularly, that's not your problem. You don't need that assignment. My assignment to you is to spend 15 minutes a day journaling on your big why. Why are you here? What is your message? If you were to die tomorrow, what is the message that you would want people left with? So that's your assignment, because for you, it's all about getting more clear on what you're actually broadcasting and who you actually want to magnetize into your artistic sphere.
Oh my God. I actually just felt this well of sadness when you said, when you die, what is your message? Maybe I was feeling into the collective sadness because so many people would be sad if that happened. Like, I just feel so many heads going, what is my message to the world? And I
Mm.
actually have some sadness because I'm just starting to get my message out. I'm like, if I die tomorrow, holy shit, no way, I haven't done it yet. I have to do it now. Get it out there. Now's the
We don't
time.
know.
I mean, maybe that's
Yeah.
the inspiration for hosting the summit, one of them.
I
And I
mean, look
actually
at
heard this really
you.
relevant story yesterday. I'll just tell it really briefly. And that was this young kid, like a 5-year-old child, was suffering with a chronic ailment. And the naturopathic doctor said, let your kid go out and get really dirty and play in mud and the water. Turn on the water hose and let your kid get filthy. And he did, and he got better. And so this is like healing power of just letting your, like, we were never allowed to play in the mud. We always were like, no, don't. You have to like put this shirt on. You have to stay a particular way. You can't get dirty. My baby, she loves playing in the mud. It's so funny. Every little puddle, she has to jump in it. And I, as a mother, like, no, not the dirty shoes. But I get how that really stunts our creativity, our flow. And it's really important that we rework that. And because I'm an involved mother, I have a 2-year-old. I try to like kind of, different than most parents would be like, no way. And I let her jump in the mud just a little bit, enough that it won't get the car dirty. Because I understand that I think our generation, we were halted. Our parents were more about rules than our freedom, our emotional freedom, and us being ourselves. We were like, okay, you need to basically go for the carrot at the end, which is the accountant or whatever, and keep going. And it was like a false promise because we went into that and then we end up with illness or sickness because we're not living in our purpose. We're not living in our truth. The younger generation, I'm now realizing, is totally different. They won't have those wounds. They might have different wounds, but not the same wounds as we have right now. So I think that's essential
Absolutely.
for us to get back to our innate self, our true playful self, and then to find our true voice and our true expression. And I believe that we all have a unique gift, genius that we have to bring out to the world. Everyone's completely different, and nobody could tell you what yours is. It has to come from you.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot, and if you want, I'm happy to edit this out. Being an awesome Vedic astrologer, which you are, I've worked with you a little bit, so I know your awesomeness around that. Do you have any? So this is spring. The doors of spring have just opened. So do you have any insights, astrological insights about, anything really?
I do, and I would be happy to share them. And it's interesting because astrology deals a lot in karma, in fate, in dharma and destiny, right? And creativity is the realm of free will. And it's so fun to have these two lenses that dance together in the most beautiful way. Now, what's coming up for us is this is a true spring. We've been in quite a winter, and I don't just mean seasonally, I mean astrologically. We've been in a very intense period with the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And what's really fascinating is that is coming to an end. I believe the exact date is April 5th, though I wish I had looked it up. I believe it's the 5th. It's, plus or minus a day.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter because this has been going on for a while.
Uh-huh.
Jupiter's going to move. And what that means is that this conjunction that has represented cataclysmic change, and oh boy, it brought us the election wildness, it brought us the coronavirus, it brought us a lot of big changes, right? That cataclysmic pressure is going to be relieved. And Jupiter has been in a place where it's been compromised, and Jupiter represents generosity or expansiveness and has quite a bit to do with creativity. And Jupiter will be in a more comfortable home and a more comfortable sign after that date, at least for most of the year. There'll be a brief little blip of return to these patterns in the fall, but essentially we're going to really feel the exuberance of summer. We're going to really feel the exuberance of spring. And it's a great time with the waxing sun, right? You think of a waxing moon, which is getting more full. The sun is getting more full too, right? It's waxing. We're heading into, at least in the northern hemisphere. Sorry for those of you that are in the southern hemisphere. We're heading into summer, right? And so that waxing sun is a wonderful time to take advantage of our creative impulses, especially that combination of when we're in a waxing moon cycle and a waxing sun cycle, which is the only time of year where that can happen. There's just a real exuberance and a juice in the atmosphere and the environment that we get to play with. So I think there's going to be a real spring back from all the darkness and the cocooning and the composting that we've been feeling. And at least for a few months this summer, I think we're going to get a chance to really bloom. So it's the perfect time to begin exploring, investigating, and enjoying our creative impulses.
I'm so glad you said that. I had a psychic insight that this was going to be the time, exactly what you said. We're going to spring back with life. And that was another inspiration for why I am hosting this. And I just needed an astrologer to validate that. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share that comes
Well,
up?
I would just say that I trust any of your predictions. You're very spot on. I don't think you need any astrologer to validate you. And I also just wanted to congratulate you on your book because, as you were saying, oh, I feel sad. What if I haven't gotten my message out there? I just want to remind you that you absolutely have, because you did this incredible creative project, which I just want to celebrate you for. And in addition to this one, your message is absolutely being broadcast in a beautiful way.
Bam. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Wow. So, in conclusion, do you want to? Well, I want to hear about your free gifts, but if there's any last wisdom or last words you want to share as well, feel free to go ahead and do that as well.
Mm-hmm. So I was channeling to the new version, or the most updated version of my core message, which I believe our core message kind of stays the same throughout life, but it mutates. And the most recent one that I've been working with is just make your life a work of art. Right. So not only our lives themselves should be like a work of art, like let's make the most beautiful life we can, but literally make art in your life, right? It really is the most fabulous, incredible thing. And I know that everything else can really easily take precedent and priority. But I want you to explore, to know what it's like to have art as your lover, to have art as your soulmate. And I really just can't encourage you enough to dive into that. And if you already have art as your soulmate, just know that you can make a living as an artist. It is absolutely possible. There is so much room for you, especially for us healing musicians and visionary artists in the world. We are needed. The message, the transmission of the art is needed more than ever. And it's an emerging, blooming segment of the music and the art world. And there's so much room for growth. And I would just say, tune out those voices that tell you you can't do it. Tune out the voices that say it's not possible or that it's not for you. Just know that where there is a will, where there is a desire, there is a way. There is some way, some beautiful way that will leave your heart so happy and so fulfilled. And don't give up. It's absolutely possible and it's worth it, and you could do it.
I love it. Thank you. And would you like to just share in a sentence or two about your free gift?
Yes, absolutely. So, my free gift is a discovery session with me. We're going to spend 20 minutes or so diving deep into the one thing that is most holding you back from your full artistic expression, and map out a plan for you to move forward and burst forward and begin creating that beautiful professional music or art career that you've always dreamed of. And you'll leave the call having a clear plan of the next steps you can take.
Awesome. And how do people get a hold of you or find you?
Yes. So I'm going to have a link for you at taradivina.com/create, and go there and you can book a session with me. My calendar will be there and I will open up a few slots. And I'm so excited to speak with you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and wisdom.
Thank you so much for having